Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the rescheduled September 17th, 2014 Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Can you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Clint Lewis. Here. Rich Overdino.
Here.
John Nuremberger is here. Michael Daming.
Here.
Dan Glowski.
Here.
Jennifer Hansen.
Here.
David Dimmitt.
Here.
David Plefka.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nuremberger. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the August 13th, 2014 Commission meeting minutes? If so, are there any changes to said minutes? If not, they'll stand as submitted. First item under old business is a petition for site plan and conditional use permit relating to 8513 Manchester Road. Mr. Wise, I understand that the petitioner has requested that that be tabled until the October meeting.
That is correct.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We'll take that up at our October regular meeting. If you'll recall, we took this up at the last several meetings, and the applicant is making changes to the site plan to comply with the commission's requests. So this is a good tabling, constructive tabling.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Is
Mr.
there
Nuremberg.
any timing that we have to vote on a next meeting?
I believe from a legal perspective, we've confirmed that there is no such timing issues, correct?
That is
Mr.
correct.
Wise?
As the applicant has requested that it be held, there's an additional 70-day period that's identified in the code. So I haven't looked at the calendar for positive, but I would guess that that pushes us not only into October, but probably to the November meeting before a decision would have to be made by the commission.
Thank you very much.
Okay. First item under new business is a petition for site plan approval for exterior building modifications at 2921 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the petitioner present for that application? Can you please step forward, sir? If you could introduce yourself to the commission, state your name, your address, and then generally give us an overview of your application.
I'm Sil Landau, and the address is 2921 South Brentwood Boulevard. And the company is Zyquad Corporation, and the intent is to completely remodel the outside and part of the inside of the building. The building's in somewhat disrepair. It needs obviously a new facelift. And what we intend to do is change the mansard. It has a mansard roof on it. So we're going to completely change that to a more square type of roof line, eliminate the shingles in the front of the building and the side, and use Drive-It to give the building a more modern and clean look. We're going to raise that mansard roof line somewhat in order to make it a more of a rectangular type building instead of the sweeping type mansard that you see currently. There'll be green space in front of the building on the south side. In the rear portion of the building, we intend to scrape and paint and replace any of the damaged wood that is presently there. I think you all have a color rendition of what the building will look like after the work is completed.
Mr. Landau, how many businesses do business at this building?
Just one.
Just the one? And what type? Can you describe your business?
The business is a software development company.
How long have you owned this building?
1987, I believe.
Okay, very good. We appreciate your investment in our community. Mr. Wise, staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subject site is a .41 acre site located on the west side of Brentwood Boulevard. It's currently zoned GC General Commercial District and has an existing 9,800 square foot building on the site. As the applicant indicated, they are proposing to make modifications to the exterior of the building. In addition to the changes to the exterior, they're going to be adding a small planting bed between the building and the sidewalk along Brentwood Boulevard, add a little bit of separation between the public and the private areas along there. The site plan does show an existing fence along the west and north property lines. And they have also indicated on the far west side of the building, so furthest from Brentwood Boulevard, a new 6-foot-high vinyl trash enclosure with a vinyl gate to comply with city code requirements. There is an existing rooftop unit that is located on the southern side of the existing building. It is currently not screened and is visible from Brentwood Boulevard. Under the city code requirements, rooftop mechanical equipment is required to be screened. We've had some preliminary discussions with the applicant, and I believe that they have a proposed solution to comply with the code requirement for that.
Is that true, Mr. Landau?
That's absolutely the case. We will put up a vinyl fence to shield the rooftop unit from view.
Okay, do we have any renderings of that?
I do not, but that's easily given to you.
Okay. What type of vinyl?
It'll be probably a 4-foot, it's about 4 foot high or so, and it'll enclose it completely.
And have you seen sites or elevations or pictures of this material?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it in other locations, in other buildings, or on other buildings.
Well, that's my primary concern. But let's go ahead and open it up to the commission for questions. Yes, Mr. Demmett.
I want to address just a little bit this rooftop. I guess it's a compressor or condenser, I'm not sure the
Yes.
terminology. It looks pretty ancient, as I saw it. Are you anticipating using that one? Are you?
No.
You're going to get
No,
a new unit?
it's going to be replaced. It's over 20 years old.
Yeah, it looked like it was rusted out on the sides of it. I'm just wondering if this fence, this vinyl fencing that you're proposing to put around the rooftop unit, is it going to be, it's just around the unit itself? It's not any bigger than the?
Oh, no. It's, I mean, it'll come within, a couple of feet of the unit itself.
I'm wondering, because the rooftop unit is visible currently as you're driving northbound on Brentwood.
It is.
Since you're going to be putting in a whole new unit anyway, have you given any thought to putting the condenser on the building that's just to the west, the adjacent building, which is a flat roof? You see what I'm saying? You understand my question?
Yes.
Yeah,
Now, it could be lowered to near ground level.
you can put it down on the ground as well.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe that would be, I don't know, is this going to go to subcommittee or?
Well, no. What do you think about that?
That would probably be preferable. I would not really like the look of the building. I think it would spoil the look of the building if we had that vinyl fence
I
around it.
agree 100%. That's why I'm advocating maybe we
No,
just
I
get it
mean,
off the roof altogether.
since it needs to be replaced, I would more than likely want to move it to ground level.
Yeah. Because if you put it either on the side down on the ground, or if you put it on the west side behind the building, sitting on that's the flat roof, where you can hang it off the back.
Yeah, it's close enough to put it on the back side of the building itself.
Right, and that way it's not visible at all. I don't imagine you'd be visible from Brentwood Boulevard.
I don't think so.
Okay. And I think all you're looking at doing is running some additional electric to wherever.
And venting, yes.
Right, the venting and,
Yeah.
right, the cabling to come out to it. Okay, the other question I have for you is the proposed landscaping.
Yes.
I like that. I'm just wondering, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's to put in a fixed planter on the east side of the property, that's the Brentwood Boulevard side, that's 2 feet high according to the renderings, and then you're putting 24-inch burning bushes in the planter, if I'm reading is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if you thought that through, because then you're going to end up having 4 feet in front of the front door of the building. I'm just wondering how that would
You
look.
think it's, excuse me, you think it's going to cover too much of the front?
Well, I'm
front
just
door?
wondering in terms of the final, how it's going to look at the end of the day, if it's, you got something that's 4 feet high blocking the front of the building, including the front doors. I love the idea that you're putting in landscape, don't get me wrong. Just wondering if possible, maybe to split it in half and push it out to the sides or something.
I think it could be pushed out to the south side of the building a little bit.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, yeah, no, I think the suggestion about the rooftop equipment being moved to ground level is an excellent one. And Mr. Landau, you.
I'm agreeing to that, yes.
Okay, very good. Other questions from commission members? Mr. Glasky?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you would put it at ground level on the site. It looks like on the south side, you have pretty close property line.
We have 5 feet on the south side.
You'd be able to fit
So
it.
there's, I mean, there's room there, but the suggestion of putting it on the flat, on the back side of the building, on the flat roof, would probably be a better location.
Yep.
Yeah, either one. So that's your preference, would be to put it on the flat roof?
I think so. I think it'd be easier to install that way.
I don't think we really have a preference, but I think just the concept of moving it off the,
Just the visibility from
Right.
Brentwood, yeah.
Mr. Narnberger?
Would there be any sound to the residents that are behind, off, I don't know, haven't been farther the back? I'm just worried about the person that lives on the other side of that lot.
The house is a significant distance away. And I don't think that there'd be much noise generated from an additional unit.
What about, do you think they would see that, the rooftop unit from their backyard if they're,
You know, there's some large trees back there, so I don't think so. There's a huge mulberry tree back there, among others.
yeah, well, I hate to say it, sometimes trees go away too, you know, yeah.
And the leaves drop and, yeah.
The other point, I don't really understand totally about the landscaping you're really proposing. I don't know if I'm missing a document or whatever. Are you talking about, what are you talking about putting in the boxes that are out front?
It's on the floor.
Well, 8 burning bushes,
Okay,
24 inches tall.
I might be missing another page.
It's on that, it's on that.
Oh, on this, okay.
Upper right hand.
Top right of the plan, Mr. Narnberger.
Okay, thanks. All right, so
And there will be a masonry wall
Yeah.
in front also.
what about the rest of the asphalt out front? Is there gonna be any opportunity for anybody to be able to pull in, you know, to park or whatever, or even come in? Is it gonna be covered, that whole area covered?
Oh, no, it's,
So the burning bushes would be in the ground and then the box behind it?
yeah, there'll be a small wall behind it. A 2-foot-high wall behind it.
Okay, and then the sidewalk will be behind that wall going into the building?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commission members? Mr. Obertino?
Are you getting rid of the 2 planters on the front of the building now?
Oh, yes.
So they're going away.
They have to go away, yes.
And what is the purpose of this 2-foot wall? Just a decorative
That's
screen
it,
wall?
yes. To separate the plantings from the building itself.
Have you ever thought about going to one curb cut on this parking lot? It's kind of an odd situation where that south entrance, when you pull in, you're pulling right into a car that's parked in that parking spot. Or are these striped as in and out, one way only, or? It's just a unique situation.
That was the configuration of the building when it was purchased more than 20 years ago.
Any member of the audience like to address the commission on this application? Any other questions from commission members? Well, we have these issues with the HVAC unit. We have some of the landscaping issues I think we still need to sort out. What's the pleasure of the commission? I think we're probably going to have need for a site plan review on the other petition. Would the commission be inclined to take this one up as well at site plan? And I will take that as a yes unless there's a motion to approve the application. Okay, seeing, so by acclamation, sir, I think it sounds like we're going to take your application up at site plan review. And let's talk right now, commissioners, about when we're going to have that site plan review. There are some conflicts on the commission, including on the part of your chairman, for September the 24th. So is there any objection to having the site plan review on September the 25th, a Thursday at 6 p.m.?
I can be there.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Does that work for you, Mr. Landau?
I think so.
Okay,
yes.
good. Then we will look forward to seeing you on September the 25th at 6 p.m. right across the hall. If you could make sure that we address these issues with the HVAC unit, you can coordinate with staff to make sure we get those renderings. And
Can he have a little bit better rendering of the landscape area in the front, so we have a little bit better picture of what he's proposing?
can you make that happen, Mr. Landau?
Sure.
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Pulaski.
And I think Mr. Albertino's suggestion that the property go to a single curb cut is a good one. I mean, there's a utility pole in the center, but you could probably eliminate the southern curb cut. I'd like you to maybe give some consideration to that as well.
Why don't you
Okay.
think about that, and that'd be something that we'd like to talk about at that site plan review
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
Okay, very good. We'll
Okay,
look forward to
thank
seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is a petition for conditional use permit and site plan approval to incorporate additional land area and a building addition at 2827 South Brentwood Boulevard and 8827, 8823, 8819, and 8815 West Pendleton Avenue. Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward and state your name and address?
My name's Anthony Bomarito. Our address is 2827 South Brentwood. This is Matt Wolf, who's helped us. with the
The
project.
architect on the project.
Okay.
Gentlemen, could you raise that microphone where he put it down?
Yep.
All right, Mr. Bomarito or Mr. Wolf, can you generally give us an overview of your application?
Sure. So we've had this building built, I think in 2006, at its existing location, and look to build a little additional space to the west to use some of the property we've acquired over the past couple of years.
Okay, what's the nature of your business and what are you looking to do with this addition?
We import and distribute wine throughout the state, and this additional space is warehouse space for additional wine that we will sell.
I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
It's more space for wine that we'll sell.
So exclusively warehouse use.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wise, staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal includes adding 4 properties to the existing property that's located on Brentwood Boulevard. All of the properties in aggregate are currently owned by the applicant, and they have all previously been zoned GC General Commercial District. So the request that's before us this evening is essentially an amendment to expand their previously issued conditional use permit, to expand the use and add the other land area under a final conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the use. The proposal includes a just over 12,000 square foot addition onto the existing 11,000 square foot building. The majority of the addition is set towards, I guess, the middle of the final property as you look at it, with the western side having more of the open space. They are adding additional parking and an additional loading space onto the site as shown on the site plan. And they're also proposing to wrap the existing landscaping plan along Brentwood Boulevard and the portions that they have along Pendleton around the entire site to match it and bring it all as a cohesive landscape design. As part of that, they're going to pull some of the existing trees off of Pendleton, relocate those onto the western side of the site, and wrap the existing maple trees all along Pendleton to give it that kind of solid and consistent look across the site. There is one existing curb cut on the site, I believe, and the proposal adds an additional 2 curb cuts, one on the West Pendleton and one on the to Collier, for access and additional circulation through the site. There are some other additional items, lighting for the site. They need to clarify, or the staff would ask for clarification. They do show some lights that are on the building just to ensure that they're not proposing additional standards within the parking lot. If they are, making sure that those are reviewed by the commission to ensure that any potential negative impact on the adjacent property owners are taken into consideration. Site coverage would result in 65%, so it is compliant with the general commercial district regulations for site coverage. And the final, I guess, a general note that staff would ask to be added is the amount of the landscape islands to ensure that it's compliant with the amount of interior landscaping. Based off of a look at the site, it looks like it complies with everything, but just making sure that we get those numbers added onto the site plan to verify compliance.
Okay, do we have that information tonight, gentlemen?
We don't have it with us, but we do have that information.
Okay. Let's make sure we get that before our site plan meeting. Parking is an issue. Frankly, the primary issue here is going to be impact on the neighboring property owners, as you might imagine.
Sure.
And I note here, do we know how many employees you have at this site?
We have about 30 employees in our St. Louis location, some of which are just there for a short time in the morning, and then they leave after that.
30 employees throughout the course of a day?
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. Mr. Wise, would the proposed, and I note that the proposal adds an additional 24 parking spaces for a total of 38 parking spaces. Does
That
then-
would be compliant.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing from some of the audience members if they have come here on this application. But in the meantime, are there any commissioners that have some questions for the applicant? Mr. Nurnberger.
Yes, I would like to know from Justin first, as far as the commercial zoning, how long ago was that rezoned commercial? Do you know?
I'm not sure the exact date on when that happened yet.
Can you find out, because it was not done since I've been on the commission, and I'm kind of curious why, unless it was done, was a Schnucks store was done. I'm really upset about losing 4 homes on that stretch of road. It's a residential neighborhood, and then we're going to industrial use. The one thing I gotta say, Bomarito does a really nice job of landscaping and taking care of their property. No question about that. And I really appreciate that when you came back for us and we did this, how many years ago, it's been awesome about taking care of that. But, it's just expanding that and making it all parking on residential side. I'm a little concerned about that. And the use of the property being industrial, when we have all kinds of industrial and Henry Industrial Court, and I know you don't own it, but, we have a lot of industrial areas, not by residential. One of the other things that I've noticed, I live myself on Collier Avenue, so I'm drive by there every day, down Pendleton. A lot of your trucks show up at 7 o'clock, even sometimes earlier, the semis. They will park on the road with their whatever engine running or whatever, because they're waiting for you guys to open up or whatever to unload. It doesn't happen every day, but it does happen on a regular basis. And I would like to have an answer about how many, increasing the size, are we going to increase the amount of semis going down Pendleton Avenue in the future? A couple other things. One thing I don't remember when we approved your location, that there was going to be any parking of vehicles on your lot overnight. I think there's at least 4 or 5 vehicles that park in your, right now, that I guess people come in and park and then leave with the truck. They probably don't take them home or whatever. So they're coming in and then they go out and make their deliveries and then come back to your site. I'm not just assuming that. Let's see. And as far as the site plan, we can go into details. I would just like to understand why you want to do 2 loading docks. And, you kind of have 2 of them displayed or whatever. And to me, there would not be a need to have 2. One would be sufficient, or if you need 2, you would put them side by side and that sort of thing. And adding additional curb cuts, I understand the one on one side and the one on Collier, but I don't know if you really need to have a second curb cut, but I can probably be convinced otherwise. So if you have any answer to any of this question, or if we want to bring him up later, that would be great.
Which
Thank you.
would you prefer?
Why don't you go and proceed with
Yep.
addressing some of these issues?
Well, with regard to the trucks on the streets early, also, you mentioned the second dock. The hope would be this would give us a little more, better ability to have those trucks off the street and in the dock by having 2. So that hopefully, takes care of having trucks on the street early.
Well, just so you know, they park on the street. They don't back in waiting for you guys to come in.
Yeah.
It's all on the street and cars have to go around them.
Yeah, and this should alleviate that in some regard, yes.
Yeah.
What other issue?
Like I said, the trucks parking the vehicles on the lot or whatever, I don't know if there was any approval for that. I don't know if we have to give approval for that, but it was never discussed, like leaving 4 trucks that have Bomarito on it. There's another sign or whatever, and I know why you want to have the signs going around the city or whatever as you're selling your goods and that sort of thing. But to me, if I live near there, you're going to have 4 trucks and you're going to see Maori wines all weekend long when you're entertaining somebody across the street, when at your house and that sort of thing. So that's just a concern of mine.
Okay.
Oh, and the delivery times or whatever, our code doesn't allow deliveries before 7 o'clock. Is that correct, Justin?
Correct.
So what would we do about a semi that pulls in at 5 o'clock in the morning because he gets off the road or whatever and just park there until the place opens.
We would ask them to leave.
Sounds like an enforcement issue.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a couple of my concerns. If you can try to address them during the site plan review, that would be great.
Yeah.
Other commission members? Okay, Mr. Albertino.
Just to kind of go on what John said, I think you guys need to study this whole.
Could you get within a couple of feet of the microphone, please?
Need to study this whole curb cut situation and the way you've got this designed. I mean, this is a residential street, and you're creating virtually a 150-foot wide curb cut. I mean, yeah, there is some parking, but, you know, these radiuses, I'm not sure what you're trying to do with trucks in and out of this thing, but you're creating West Pendleton as a loading scenario, the way you've got this thing. I think you need to get the trucks into your property and then maneuver them in and out of the loading docks, as opposed to having an additional, I mean, a 50-foot wide curb cut. You know, the street's only 40 and the lane's only 12, so I think you need to put some serious thought into how that's working there and reduce that for the neighborhood. If I lived across there and had that scenario, I don't think it's something I'd want to look out of, and I would be afraid to back my car in and out of the street if I had to do that situation. So I think John had a good point. You know, flip these buildings, get the loading docks together.
Can we address that now, or do we wait for a site?
You can wait for a site, I think is, or you can give your opinion
we-
now, I guess, whatever.
We did have the docks together, but AT&T has a switching box that's right in the middle. See a little black box next to the tree? We can't move that without a sort of an exorbitant expense, so we figured we better work around it. So that's why the dock got flipped to the other side. And as for the radius, the trucks were coming in backing off of the Pendleton and swinging into the properties across the street in order to make that curb as they backed into the existing dock. So that's why that curb cut's wider, so we don't swing into the neighboring streets across the way. Also, if there's a car parked out on that street, then we can't get a truck in there, so that's why that's that wide.
And that kind of goes to my point. That's why you need to figure out how to get these trucks to move around your property, within your property, so the residences can leave their cars parked on the residential street, and you can both
Well,
coexist.
actually, there's no residents till about halfway down that block. They're all businesses.
Right about where you're at. You know, when you put a 65-foot truck that pulls in and backs around, now you're another 65 foot. I just think it needs to be studied, and we'll get into more detail on it.
So concerns from the commission that we'd like to hear about at the site plan committee. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, any member of the audience like to address the commission on this application? Please step forward, ma'am. State your name and your address. Gentlemen, you can have a seat there in the front row.
Martha Rader, I'm on 8916 Pendleton. I'm with you. This is a residential neighborhood, and to be all honest with you, Mr. Bomarito has done a very good job about keeping his import-export business nicely maintained with landscaping, and the building is nice. But I live on Pendleton, not very far up there, and I'm going in and out of Schnucks one way. If I see the traffic really heavy on Manchester, I'm heading out the other way, right where Mr. Bomarito is, and those trucks are there. He does need, to be honest with you, he does need additional parking for his employees in that area, because they're parked all over our streets on Collier and on Pendleton. But then you've got the vet, the chiropractor, the foot doctor, and then you've got some residential areas, and they're not all that fancy fixed up, but they are residential. And I prefer to keep my area residential. And I think that when you have, and the nice small one-story homes, I think, are just a charm to have, and you're not gonna find them very much anywhere, because, you know, it's $350 or more to pay the condo fee. The nice when you have a nice residential, keep it residential as much as you can. And I think a lot of it's just enforcing the fact that this is residential and you're going to limit your commercial development. There are industrial areas on the other side. I know that. I've gone down there and they are empty. There are empty buildings down there where he could have developed in Brentwood. And, and it's off of Manchester Road. And this is residential. And I'm like, when did this turn commercial? Somebody had to sell a beautiful home and was zoned commercial. That was a nice house he sold. But I don't want my house all of a sudden taken from me because you say we're making this all commercial now. There are people in my neighborhood that are not in the position to pack up and move and have their life savings within the next 10, 15 years. And I can say, how long is this going to go on? It is residential. There is a congestion problem. There is a truck problem. There's, say other home-based businesses like the Votas that have trucks in and out of there. Schnucks has trucks in and out of there. When is it going to end? And I'm just standing up for people like myself who enjoy my one-story home. And I do, and the residential area that it brings, it's nice. And that's all I have to say. You need to really enforce some of the commercial development that you're doing and just, really appreciate what you have in the residential areas. Because there is that location for that stuff, and it's just not working for me right now. He's done a good job. The plans don't look too out of line, but you need to really give some serious thought before you just start going approving everybody right and left. And that's all I have to say. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Please step forward, ma'am. Just name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Bonnie Rasmussen. I'm at 8828 Pendleton, and I own the two adjacent properties going south on Collier, which are vacant. There's no development there. I enjoy talking with Mr. Bomarito when he stops as he drives by now and then. I have no problems with their business. I support what I've heard here this evening. However, I do need to back up a little bit and say that I've lived in this charming old house for 40 years. And my neighbor told me years ago it was built by Mr. Schwengeman, and I didn't know what that meant until a few years ago Mr. Schwengeman built pre-Sears kit homes, and they were always at the end of a railroad track, so that they could get the package in. Valley Park had a lot of them. Fenton has a lot of them. And this past year I was out in Fenton, and the Historical Society is proudly in Mr. Schwengeman's own kit home that they have restored. Some of you might enjoy going out there and seeing that. I've had my house open from time to time for tours going through, and it's one time several years ago, the Brentwood Historical Society brought a highway bus and the Missouri Historical Society and about 50 people, and they just went in the front and out the back and got the lecture. The reason I mention that is that my cute little old house is coming apart, okay? Partly because of age. It's 110 years old. It was built in 1904, and it's time for change. And the change has been hastened a little bit by all of the improvements in the neighborhood, beginning with putting the 4-foot diameter stormwater sewer down Collier during Mayor Kurtz's reign, and Jim Brigham was the building commissioner. He was the building commissioner at the time I was sharing planning and zoning for 5 years, and he sometime later than that was when the sewer was going in, I think. the stormwater. Quickly, very quickly, quietly, was participated in getting the rezoning across the street on Pendleton and Collier, the houses that have been torn down for Bomarito's. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a step in the right direction. I am working on I do artwork, and I'm working on a nice job right now, and I've told one or two people that as soon as I finish this, which should be about November, I'm intending to relocate, and if my house doesn't fall down first, I'll tear it down second, okay? And I took down the houses on the other properties that I owned as well, so it's not a big shock to me. I worked real hard just as a citizen. When the plan for future development of Brentwood was laid about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a little more than that, and just worked very hard to get the south side of Pendleton rezoned, to recommend that it eventually be rezoned, just because of its location. I'm awfully tired of seeing trucks go down my street. Sunday morning, I woke up and I heard a truck out there this past Sunday morning. And I looked out and I said, gosh, that's a big truck. And it was a service tow truck for big trucks from Schnucks. And there was a dead truck out there and another truck coming to get all the stuff. So you just have that going on all the time, and I've personally seen enough of it. I'm ready to relocate, and so you know, I support it just because of location. Bomarito's couldn't be a better neighbor, but the only thing wrong with them is the size of their trucks. It's not a problem. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other member of the audience like to address the commission? Okay, Mr. Nurnberger?
I just would like to make sure that the lady understands that this is an application in front of us that somebody already owns all 4 of the parcels. And I'm just trying to explain. And then they're asking us to consider a site plan using their property we're not doing this, this is coming before us. And then they have to have ownership of all the properties to be able to do this at all. And going from what the Justin just said, it's already zoned as commercial. I want him to check into that and make sure that's the case or whatever. And that had to be done years ago because I've been under commission for 12 years and it didn't happen under my watch. So, but it had to have happened sometime before. I just want to understand that you understand that we're not doing this. This is an applicant that comes to us, to the city, wanting to do something with their property. And sometimes it's really difficult to be able to we try to get the best best project out of the development that we can. And
It's the traffic, and, you know, I don't want additional traffic or additional stuff like.
Understand
lines
that
or
entirely.
anything, you know, it's, you know.
we'll make sure that the best that it can be. I just want to make sure you understood. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Demmett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the applicant, Mr. Bomarito, just a couple of quick questions for you. The existing building right now, you have approximately 11,000 square feet. How much of that space is dedicated to warehouse or holding your inventory?
I believe it's about 2,000 or 3,000 feet of office, and the balance is warehouse space.
Okay, so so approximately 8,000 square feet is holding your inventory.
Yes, correct.
I don't know if you can answer this question tonight, but if you can, I'd like you to get the answer for us before the site plan review. How many deliveries, what's the frequency of deliveries currently?
It varies, just the time of year, and yeah, it's really hard to guess. I couldn't tell you.
Okay, and I don't want you to guess. I'd like to get your best estimate, so maybe before September 25th, you can try and gather some type of a number. I understand maybe it's an average to look at, so a little bit of homework for you to do before September 25th.
Sure.
And then the other question I'd like to pose to you, and hopefully you can provide some type of an answer and some insight, is this additional 12,000 feet that you're proposing, is that going to be exclusively warehousing, or is there office space in that as well?
The new space we're building will be exclusively warehouse. There is some consideration for additional office within our current building, but not, it's not to, it wouldn't increase the number of employees drastically. It'd just be to give us a little more space, just because.
More than a little more. It's not a little more space.
Well, in
it's a fair
terms of
amount.
the office.
Okay, the office
Yeah,
space.
just because currently it's pretty tight in there also.
The other thing I'd like you to do before September 25th is address the issue of the frequency of deliveries with that additional 12,000 square feet.
Yeah.
You know, do you anticipate, once it gets filled, once you get that initial inventory in there, would you anticipate having the same amount of deliveries, or do you think you're going to have increased deliveries?
I would think, currently in the environment we have to operate very quickly because of how squeezed we are. As odd as it may sound, it's not that the 12,000 new feet would necessarily double the number of trucks we get. Those trucks that show up would likely be full, so it could, increase efficiencies in terms of number of trucks that come. Sometimes they come now with just a little wine on them. It's much more efficient to have the truck full, so that would allow us to get, fill that up with, more efficiently.
And this is through a distributor or something like that you're talking about that's delivering these your inventory?
The wine we'll get in comes from different wineries, from
Okay.
either just different parts of.
So you have no control over the size of truck that's being used to?
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, that's the kind of information that I would like for you to have on September 25th, so we can discuss that a little bit more to see what kind of an impact this proposal would have on the residential side.
Sure.
Thank you.
Understood.
Any other questions from commission members? Okay, so gentlemen, what we'd like to have in the site plan review meeting is September the 25th at 6 p.m. It'll be here. We'd like to get your thoughts. You've heard concerns about the curb cut in terms of size and quantity here. We'd like to have you address those concerns to the extent there is feasibility in putting these loading docks closer together. We'd love to see a plan that addresses that issue. To Mr. Dimmitt's concern, we'd like to have you address the frequency and the timing of deliveries. And then, Mr. Wise, can you also pull the information? I'd like to see the ordinance that addressed the rezoning of this area for GC, and then also the comp plan references to this area.
Absolutely.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen of the commission?
Could I add one thing?
Sure.
I'm sensitive to the neighborhood, and, we really see this as, really enhancing the area, as you see from, the building we built years ago from what was there before. It was a older building, and we, think it looks very nice. When I show up to work every day, I'm quite proud to show up to the building. I think it's a first-class building, and from what we've laid out with Matt's help, we really expect it to carry that same look. And, look forward to that, so.
Well, I heard nothing but compliments about your status as a good neighbor and a corporate citizen, so we appreciate your investment in the community, and we look forward to working with you on this application.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll see you on the 25th at 6 o'clock. Okay, aldermanic report. I don't see any aldermen here. City planners report.
One quick update. I think we've talked previously about the RFQ that went out for consultant services for the comprehensive plan. That did close last Friday, I believe, so we have those submissions in. I think we got a very good representation of submittals that are in that are currently in the review process, and we hope to have something more concrete for you in the near future.
So will it be possible to get some recommendations for the subcommittee to review at the meeting on the 25th, Mr. Wise?
That was my original hope. As we're looking through them, we're looking geographically where these firms have submitted from. I think the interview process is probably going to take a little bit longer than we originally anticipated, which I think is a good thing. I think we got a lot of attention from several states, from North Carolina, South Carolina, kind of all over the country a little bit. I think as far north as Michigan, as far south and east as north, and one from South Carolina as well. So we'll work on it. I'll give you guys an update as soon as we have a good schedule worked out for that.
Okay, and the commission will recall the aim here is to have the commission review some of the preferred and recommended applications here, and I would think the best forum in which that would take place would be a site plan subcommittee meeting. So, Mr. Wise, if not September, certainly you believe October would be appropriate for that?
Absolutely, and this, depending on how the process goes, it may be something that we would ask for a special meeting for consideration to make sure we get things moving along
Good.
quickly.
Very good. Okay, the site plan review meeting will be the 25th at 6 p.m. Rationale for the Board of Aldermen. I don't think we have anything to forward. Other business, Mr. Wise has, Mr. Wise, why don't you go ahead and present on this mobile food vendor issue?
Sure. I think it was a small project that had gone through the city for quite some time. There was discussion about basically how to permit, how to allow, under what conditions to allow mobile food vendors or food trucks within the city. In November of last year, the Board of Aldermen did approve an ordinance after receiving a recommendation from the commission to establish a one-year pilot program, I guess, to allow mobile food vendors. So the first part is we're bringing that forward to P&Z again, start that conversation here. As far as how do we want to move forward with that program and making a recommendation back to the board about moving forward.
And that go ahead, Mr. Wise.
Since the ordinance was passed, we have had 5 permits come in through the city. All 5 of those permits have been for city events, music on the menu, some of the movie nights that they're doing in the parks, those type of events where we've had some vendors come out and basically offer food services to the residents in attendance. We have seen since the original offering of those, we have seen a decline in the interest of some of those food trucks. Some of the I guess, concerns that they have raised are the $100 application fee, as well as trying to strike a balance between how many people we have at our events versus how many food trucks are available for those. We've been kind of working to hit the right mark on those. So that's where we are from a staff perspective.
Okay.
Aside from the city events, we did have interest. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman. We did have interest from one other property owner that was in the Hanley Industrial Court. After we talked to him about the permit, the fee that was associated with it, they decided to go another route and do other options instead of paying the $100 permit fee. So.
And Mr. Wise made copy of the ultimate ordinance that was passed What I don't have is what the commission passed, what the commission's recommendation was. So I'd suggest to the commission, let me know what you all think, but if we could get that emailed to all of us in advance, since we did spend a good deal of time reviewing the food truck issue, and I thought made a very considered and thoughtful recommendation. I'd like to see what the commission ultimately decided upon, and we can take that into account with what the Board of Aldermen ultimately passed, and perhaps take this up at our September 25th very full subcommittee meeting, if that's acceptable to the commission. Okay, Mr. Pulaski?
Yeah, I would also be interested in hearing from Mr. Wise about what the vendors are saying a reasonable fee or typical fee would be, and also what maybe your independent research reveals on that.
And I've been working with our park superintendent already informally on that a little bit. I know there are some other communities that basically what they do to quote-unquote share the risk is instead of having a flat fee, they'll do a percentage of gross receipts. So that way, if the food truck doesn't have any sales, they don't lose money, they just lose the time. But then if it's more successful, then it's simply a portion of the receipts as well.
Thank you.
And I will bring more information back on that for you all.
Very good. Any other commissioners? Okay, we'll add that to the site plan subcommittee agenda. Next item under other business, I did want to bring the commissioners' attention to the missing seat formerly occupied by Jake McDonald. Mr. McDonald has relocated to West County and has, to the detriment of the city, submitted his resignation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I know I speak for all of us in saying that Mr. McDonald will be missed, as he was a good contributing member of this commission. Then finally, I note that we have my predecessor as chairman in the room. Mr. John Geppert's decided to grace us with his presence. Mr. Geppert, would you like to step forward and address the commission? This is
You already run a more efficient meeting than I ever ran.
Name and address, and
You have
for
3
those
minutes.
for those that are watching on TV, this is John Geppert 2.0. You may not recognize him, but it is John Geppert.
Well, as I said to the Board of Aldermen on Monday night, I said, I lived in Dallas, Texas for several years after college. And there was a very active club music scene. And there was a young musician at the time by the name of Willie Nelson, who sang a song that went, "Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." And my variation is, "Mama, don't let your babies spend the summer in the Rocky Mountains, because here's what you could get back." It is a pleasure to be here again, and again, the name is John Geppert, and the address is homeless.
Well, it's good to have you back, John. Come back.
As most of you know, I'm wandering the country in a recreational vehicle, and I'm passing through for a while. But I will say one thing, and that is that I both attended the grand opening today and took a self-guided tour of the Drury Hotel project. And for those of you who have not been down there yet, it is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Drury has done a wonderful job. As all of you on this panel know, I have said over and over that every single project that we have worked on, that I have found areas where I wish we'd have seen that coming. I wish we'd have changed that. Every one of them has had something that I've identified as we could have done better. At this point, on the Drury, I haven't found one. And it's a beautiful property, both inside and out. And beyond that, it is a culmination of a vision that began back in the early 90s under then Mayor Mark Kurtz, carried forward by Mayor Kelly, to redevelop, that area of our community. And if I had it to do over again, I would ask the board for money to have aerial photographs taken from before we started anything to what it looks like now. it is as much night and day as you could ask for. And it's just absolutely fabulous, and this community, and I'm not sure a lot of people really, truly appreciate this, the financial stability of this community has almost been assured for the next generation or more because of the redevelopment that's occurred up there. And it has, of course, created a whole new face for the community in that portion of town. But I think I actually submitted my resignation at just the right time because it was like this was project complete. I worked on every single one of those projects, and somebody can correct me on the math. I'm going to say roughly $600 million worth of redevelopment in a 2-square-mile town. That's massive. That is huge. And it has changed both the face of the community, and it has changed the financial stability of the community, but it has not compromised, in my opinion, the character of the community. Now, that's subjective by various people, because you know, if you look at how we've done comprehensive planning in the past, that whole northeast quadrant is separate and always has been pretty separate from most of the general residential areas, and it still is. And I think what we've done is somewhat protect the basic core residential areas for their future and their development. And Brentwood has always benefited by a balanced land use between commercial and residential, so as to keep the taxes on the citizens as low as it can be, but keep the services as high as they can be. And I think that's where the city now resides from a financial point of view. And so I appreciate the recognition, but it was just what a wonderful timing point for me to come back for the ribbon cutting on the final piece of that, of that fabulous vision that was put in place many years ago. Thank you.
Much of the success you described is a testament to your leadership. So the city owes you a debt of gratitude, and come back early and often, sir.
Thank you.
Any other business? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? My motion carries. We stand adjourned.